tournament today versus Clutch, who picked up another win over TSM despite a couple of hiccups throughout the game.
Yeah, LirA didn't have his best performance, but the team as a whole performed really, really well. They did take down TSM, who was 2-0 going into that game, and once again, they derailed the hype for a team that was looking like one of the strongest in the league. And Clutch now sitting here at 2-1. You know, they kind of surprised a lot of people, I think, in spring with how well they performed, and certainly have looked better than CLG so far this split. You know, they're on pace to be sitting very pretty in the standings.
3-1 at the end of week 2 is definitely a place anyone would be happy with being at. Let's see if Clutch Gaming can do it here today. Taking a look at bans, it's Braum, Talia, and Irelia banned out by Clutch Gaming. CLG responding with Zoe and Nocturne as their first 2. Still 15 seconds left to think about that last one.
Yeah, Camille, another really high priority pick. We'll see if that's where they're going to look to. Brand, very interesting. So that to me actually says that Apollo has been playing a lot of Brand bottom lane, which has become pretty popular. It's actually played there more in competitive than it is in support or mid lane or anywhere else. So perhaps worried about that from the scrims.
And you see the almost instant lock from Clutch Gaming. They see the Swain is open. They know that Febiven is so good at this champion. He completely destroys entire teams with it. Not surprised at all to see that swiftly locked in.
Yeah, I mean, he was a monster against TSM yesterday on the Swain in a tough matchup into the Anivia, but we're going to get the instant response of the Aurelion Sol. This is Huhi's Aurelion Sol. First time bringing it out this split. Obviously, this is his pocket pick. He is famous for it. And it is one that is going to have a very heavy pushing advantage against the Swain, assuming that goes mid lane. So Clutch is going to have to play very carefully in those side lanes, knowing mid priority will be going to Huhi.
And what goes well with mid-priority? A jungler that knows how to flex muscles in the early game. The Olaf picked alongside the Aurelion Sol for CLG will complement that well. Clutch Gaming decides to respond to it with the Trundle, another big, beefy, but somewhat immobile jungler. All right, let's not say immobile. I remember we had a discussion about this.
Low mobility.
Low mobility, the word Kobe would prefer. So we'll go ahead and call him that. Lower mobility on that, but still doesn't take him away from being a top-tier jungle pick. And hey, Dr. Mundo, another big meatball there for the top lane.
Yeah, and Mundo I always kind of like as a pick into champions such as Aurelion Sol, because it's not incredibly high sustained damage that can really kind of knock him down very quickly, so he can be pretty effective into those sorts of comps. That does leave open, though, for the Aatrox, which we'll get to see Darshan on something other than Ornn for the first time this split. He has played 3 straight Ornn games. Aatrox is a good matchup into that Mundo, and he'll have his chance to take over. We also have to note, you know, the Trundle being locked into this Olaf. While the Olaf has early game priority and kind of more pressure in the first early levels, post 6, and especially once you get to the later stages of the game, Trundle really does dominate. So this is putting pressure on CLG to get something done early, not only with the Aurelion Sol, but with the Olaf.
All right, with those 6 picks already locked in, though, we are into the second phase of the ban. CLG taking Morgana off the table. We've seen a lot of that champion so far in summer. Rakan, another support, very popular, very high presence. Not this game, though.
Yeah, not this game. It means we're going to have new picks from actually both of the supports, because all that we've seen from Biofrost is Braum and Morgana. All that we have seen from Hakuho is that Rakan and Morgana as well. So these guys are going to have to bring out something new. Still the potential to have mage or double melee bottom lanes, these sorts of things, but we have been seeing Stixxay prefer to play marksman. He has played 3 of 3 marksman, and Apollo has only kind of strayed from that in the one game on the Vladimir, which is still available, but it would be kind of putting Clutch as a very magic heavy profile. So I am expecting to see a standard marksman pick, at least from the side of Clutch, or you really do risk getting too magic heavy.
Clutch will further invest into the support bans here, taking Alistar off the table as their final ban of this match. And it looks like Varus will be that last ban there for CLG, saying, hey, we know that Apollo does like to play these traditional marksmen. Still, let's go ahead and take one of those out.
Could just be an Ezreal here for Stixxay. Lucian is still available up if they want to play something a little bit more aggressive. Kai'Sa, another good option that is much more of a scaling option. So I think this makes a lot of sense. Now you have CLG where it's kind of more early and focused mid and jungle. You have 2 really strong scaling late game carries in the Aatrox and the Kai'Sa. So you now have these side lanes that you can kind of choose either side to really get out to and try to snowball. And I think that gives CLG quite a few options. I like this draft already a lot more than their one yesterday against Liquid, and they're leaving their support pick for last to try to get some sort of advantageous bot lane, perhaps really good gank assist for if the Olaf and the Aurelion Sol want to come down there. So Clutch is going to have to be somewhat careful with that, and RDO Lucian to try to get a an advantageous 2v2 themselves, and we know how good Hakuho can be on this Thresh.
The Thresh Prince of Bel-Air once again going to show up and see what he can do with that champion. We saw this be so crucial in Clutch Gaming's playoff defeat of TSM at the end of spring last split. We'll have to see if it's going to be just as paramount to a victory here today against CLG, as they're hovering over the Tahm Kench as the response to that one, and they will lock it in.
Yeah, and I think Tahm makes a lot of sense. You know, anytime you're playing into a pick-oriented champion such as Thresh, being able to have the Tahm Kench for the Devour is so powerful. The other pick they hovered was the Shen, and I think Shen could have made quite a bit of sense there also, especially when you're pairing up with someone like the Aurelion Sol who loves to roam around. You can join in on that and having Kai'Sa for the dive, but Tahm Kench certainly the safer of the options. They're going to have, you know, kind of a front line here with the Olaf, with the Tahm Kench, and a fair bit of safety for the Kai'Sa, for the Aatrox. And the game plan here for CLG is very clearly have Huhi shove in mid, get out to the side lanes with ReignOver, snowball the Kai'Sa, snowball the Aatrox, and that is what they're trying to do, where Clutch is happy to play farm, happy to scale up. They have the late game secured, I think, you know, with the Mundo and the trundle, if they can play a more passive style, not get behind.
And you already mentioned the Aurelion Sol being the pocket pick here for Huhi, but it's almost a level beyond that. Remember, this was once such a terrifying prospect for everybody that went up against CLG. It was banned for so long just because everybody was just not ready for the possibility of playing against it. Those days have passed. It doesn't quite command that same level of terror in its opponents as it used to, but this man is very experienced on this champion. He knows the ins and outs of Aurelion Sol, and if he can get off to that successful start like you were talking about, shoving in the lanes, moving around with ReignOver in particular as a duo, these guys can take over the early game real fast.
Yeah, it's also one of those things where I feel like people forget about Huhi's Aurelion Sol once in a while. Then he gets a game, he carries the game, people are like, oh, guess we should start banning that again. I mean, all time, he has a nearly 70% win rate. Just about 69% win rate on this champion. Pretty insane. So, gonna command a lot of respect. He is going Phase Rush and Ignite, so this is actually a pretty aggressive setup and one that could allow him to actually have kill pressure on the Swain. So, not gonna be going for a TP, not gonna be going for a defensive summoner. Really wants to be able to have the ability to pressure, and CLG is looking for a sneaky level 1 here. They're trying to use Huhi to push back Febiven so they don't get vision of them going into the brush, but see if Clutch is going to be aware of it. Oh no, LirA.
LirA walking into the brush, could be in some trouble
dead
here. The stars come out, the damage comes down, and LirA goes home in a body bag. First blood over to CLG.
I'm actually pretty disappointed in Clutch's preparation. When you see the mid laner shoving out like that, we know CLG does a lot of these creative level 1s, and when the mid laner is pushing up to buy space, that does give you the ability to sneak in there and not respecting the possibility.
And as CLG are off to quite a fiery start here at the beginning of this game, quick reminder that later this afternoon, Biofrost will be joining Freak and Zyrene on NALCS tonight, and will be answering your questions. Send them over our way via Twitter using hashtag NALCS. We'll see which one of those they can answer. And right now, the answer to this CLG invade early on is Solo having to flash.
Yeah. He has to flash. LirA gets first blooded. The kill goes to Huhi, and Huhi didn't even have to use his own Ignite. It's Biofrost that spent that. So that is going to feel really good for Huhi and for CLG in general. I think Clutch is doing a pretty intelligent response though, kind of just answering by taking their opponent's blue. And ReignOver, yes, he is low, but he's intentionally getting low here so he can actually power clear. Here this is one more time. Huhi pushed them back to deny vision, but when you lose vision of that side brush, you have to respect the fact that this could be happening, and LirA just needs to simply back up. Because once the Olaf catches you, once the Tahm Kench catches you, there's no point in flashing. You're already dead.
Yeah, the Acer Predator replay there showing exactly what can happen with just a little bit too much disrespect of where your opponents may be early on at that level 1 juncture. And with LirA already down, that nice early advantage for CLG can result in something like what you're seeing now. It's Huhi and ReignOver looking to make a play in the top side against this level 1 Mundo.
Darshan needs to actually tank this with the Bloodwell. They can make this dive happen, but TP's coming in.
Coming in, looking to stop this now. Darshan surely going to lose the passive here. ReignOver already grabbing the kill. Now on to Solo. 2 TPs coming in, still looking to make some sort of a return kill for this. Darshan taken very low. One more auto attack from Apollo should be able to seal the deal. Darshan trying to get out of range of that one, but the piercing light will take him out.
And this is kind of a lot to unpack because they do trade back a kill, but it's 2 TPs. And how much are you going to lose on bottom lane? Like that is actually pretty costly for the roam. LirA was shoving up mid lane, but now bottom lane, they're going to be losing perhaps a fair bit of farm. We'll see how it all does shake out in the end. But CLG certainly looking good in these early stages, being very proactive. This is when their strength has been. We have to see if they can continue this play. And Aatrox is a unique champion because he has the built-in GA. So Darshan is already at 4 stacks. He just needs to get 5. He tanks up the turret with the Bloodwell passive, allows ReignOver and Huhi to finish him off, and then double TP coming in. I certainly wasn't really expecting the 2 teleports to come in, and that's allowing them to complete it. They do get the kill on Apollo, which is going to be very nice for them, and we'll see if he can now kind of get an advantage on the bottom side with that kill.
Yeah, we've seen a few early tower dives with the way that the meta has been very shaken up recently and the way the game just feels more volatile as a whole. And honestly, these anti-death champions are the ones that really catalyze it the best. Being able to, like you said, drop that turret aggro, provide the safe option, get those extra couple of seconds, and CLG playing around that, specifically using these tools that they've drafted, is what you want to see from a team that we were criticizing for being too far into the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, and honestly, where I need to see them be consistent is later stages of the game, because I think that CLG is one of the best teams in the league at the early stages. Their pre-planning is super smart, as we saw with their level 1 First Blood. They know how to move around the map. They know how to kind of snowball advantages, but they don't always get the most continuing, with that. They don't continue to increase the advantages. And even just this play is nice. You threaten the roam top. Now Mundo is getting zoned off all these creeps. Darshan doesn't have to actually do anything other than just kind of walk at him. And he's going to miss a couple minions. He missed the cannon. And that is just going to put Solo even further behind.
And you already mentioned how this is Darshan's first game of the split on not Ornn. And Ornn is a low economy meatball. You don't actually need much for Ornn to be useful because you can always blow the horn as long as you're level 6. But this time around they're saying, hey, we want to make sure our top laner's in a good spot so he can do this 1v1, so he can split push, so he can be effective. And they're putting so many resources into making that happen. They want him to succeed.
Yeah, they certainly do. And now Huhi trying to threaten to roam down to the bottom side. One of the things that Clutch really needs to do is actually get vision in the river. That's one of the best ways to actually kind of deal with Aurelion Sol. If you can get wards throughout the river, you can track those roams a lot more easily and kind of respond to them more safely. But as of now, Huhi certainly is getting a lot of value out of these roams, and CLG could potentially look for an early Infernal since they do kind of have the mid push very heavily. They have top lane advantage as well.
And that Aurelion Sol, you can see the stats on the side of your screen, nearly a 7 KDA, a 10-3 record in his NA/LCS career, over a 75% win rate that comes out to some sort of numbers slightly bigger than that, but very impressive stats here for the Star Dragon. And look at the farm too. As much as he's been out of his lane, as much as he's been rotating around and affecting other areas of the map, he's still out farming his opponent.
Yeah, and that's really kind of one of the powers of this champion. He pushes better than almost anyone else, and when you take Dematerializer on top of that, it becomes super extreme. And yeah, 75% win rate in NA, so even better than his total career win rate that I was mentioning earlier, which did include international play. And Huhi has been so good on this, going for early Swifty boots. He wants to be out on the map. Movement speed is so important for this champion because it's all about positioning and when the orbs are hitting, when the orbs are not hitting, really being able to kind of manipulate that very well. And also dealing with, actually, there's quite a few slows on this team, from Mundo cleavers and Trundle pillar and all these sorts of things that he is going to have to deal with.
Just continue farming up here in the mid lane for now. Does have level 6 available with Voice of Light online. That makes those rotations that much more threatening. Febiven also having level 6 means that he can enter into that ascended form if they get into a big extended fight. So CLG will have to be careful about Febiven being able to follow up if they don't execute quickly enough.
Yeah, and they want to go to the blue now. They want to try to repeat steal this away. They had the mid lane push. Aatrox can roam down and join them. And you can see Solo doesn't know, is this a blue play? Is this them coming to gank me? So he had backed off, and it will just be CLG able to take that away. Huhi even able to be donated to the buff, and they should be able to get back up to their own blue buff and take that as well. So a nice early pressure here from CLG. Really have done a good job in these early minutes. I want to see what they can do next.
Heading towards the bottom side now with that duo we mentioned in Champion Select. These two working together was going to be a big indicator of how well the early game would go, and right now they have been doing everything as they need to do so far. This team up about 1,000 gold, thanks to those couple of kills that they've got under their belt, as well as the farm advantages. You can see in the top lane, 23 CS advantage for the Aatrox over the Mundo. Darshan doing a good job putting to good use the amount of help that he got early on in the game, while bottom lane stays pretty much even. And even in the jungle, as much as we've been seeing these invades from ReignOver walking around with Huhi trying to make these plays happen, LirA hasn't really been able to farm up much of an advantage in his own side.
Oh, this one could go bad. LirA is very intelligently waiting to show until the dive starts here.
He could be in some trouble, taking a lot of turret aggro. He'll surely just die here. Nope, does get himself away. Vision of Empire will land onto him, applies a little bit of damage. Not quite enough. Huhi walking out of this one just barely.
Yeah, nice response there from LirA, waiting to show until the dive had already begun. If he walks up there, well, Huhi just walks away. Still, though, it is, you know, a trade of summoners. It's not only the TP that has to come in from Febiven, but it is the flash use from Solo, so they're trading that for the summoners coming out here from Huhi, and thanks to the fact that he is playing Aurelion Sol, he can get right back out the lane, fly up there, and shouldn't miss too much, so still ends up being a pretty even trade, but this is the kind of defensive style that Clutch wants to play. They want their trundle to be farming and scaling. They want their Mundo to be, you know, getting to that later stages where he is going to get stronger, and where Febiven can start to have more wave clear, more ability to kind of answer and push back here against the Aurelion Sol.
Right, you said earlier that it's the early game, the early push especially, that's so frustrating for the Swain with the Aurelion Sol, because Swain's Death's Hand has such a high cooldown early on. Clearing the waves is pretty annoying to do, but once he gets those levels, then it's going to become much more manageable. He'll be able to respond a bit better to these situations. Huhi and ReignOver again, controlling the Scuttle Crabs, moving around. Stixxay and Biofrost know that with their jungler and mid laner hanging towards that bottom side, they're okay with moving a little bit forward, getting a little aggro, seeing if they can find something.
And it is really interesting because, you know, both teams kind of have different picks, and it's going to be a hook, but it is Tahm Kench.
Yep, there's the power of that Kench, denying the engage.
Still, good amount of damage down on the Stixxay, and he'll have to be a little bit more careful. But, you know, they have different strength in different areas, right? You know, there's kind of the early game strength where CLG is in mid and jungle. That's supposed to get them to the late game strength of the Kai'Sa and the Aatrox, right? And equally for Clutch, they have this Thresh Lucian, which is much more of early game focus that is, you know, kind of supposed to be a point of power to allow their Trundle and their Mundo and these guys to scale up. So as it comes to the later stages, it's going to be about, you know, whose kind of carries, whose late game carries really did get the most out of it, and who is going to be able to really make the most of those early advantages.
Lots of damage from the bottom lane of Clutch Gaming. Biofrost in some trouble, having to pop the stopwatch there. Thick Skin also going to come out. Meanwhile, fight in the mid lane, 2 versus 2. Quickly going to be 3v3. Huhi's already out of the mix, and Febiven takes the kill for himself. Darshan shows up, able to get one back. Febiven out of the demon form, trying to get himself away. ReignOver going to go down next as Febby uses the power of the stopwatch to stay alive for only a moment longer. The resurrection will have to come through. Solo, I don't know how well this fight goes for if Darshan's able to find more heals. Nice stopwatch to keep himself alive. Darshan's passive is going to drop down now. Solo just needs to run him down with a couple more of these trophy tosses. Does manage to land it. See you later. Solo punches his ticket.
Well played there by Solo. The stopwatch is coming in so big everywhere. Looked like Darshan would have been able to clean this up. It is Clutch starting out the play here. The pull just barely misses. That gives Huhi the confidence to move in, but LirA is waiting, and they burst down Huhi quite quickly. TPs both come in. Darshan is very, very strong at this point. Gets the nice knock-up, immediately knocks down LirA. Stopwatch buys so much time here for Febiven, and despite the fact that Darshan is going to be able to knock him down, Bloodwill is procced, and then looks like Darshan should be able to win this, but the stopwatch actually makes the passive fall off, and the fact that the passive falls off means Solo can then chase in. Solo can look to kind of finish off this kill, and he is able to do it. So well done there from Clutch. It is 3 for 2 in the extended play, and now looking to pressure this Rift Herald. They've swapped top. In the meantime, may be able to just knock down this turret first here. We'll see who is actually going to get that down first.
Looks like it'll probably be CLG. They've got 3 men strong already onto the turret. They've got a larger minion wave there as well. That first turret bonus gold going their way will help to build that gold lead up a little bit further. Top side, another nice hook coming out from Hakuho. Darshan wants to keep himself alive for just a moment longer. Won't quite be able to do so. Apollo now having a dash away from Huhi's counterattack. Darshan still barely keeping himself alive as the tier 1 turret can say the same, but only for a moment longer. ReignOver recognizing this opportunity with so many Clutch Gaming bodies in the top side, says it's time to go for Infernal.
Yeah, they will be able to get the Infernal. They do get the Rift Herald also. So a lot of how well this trade works out for Clutch is dependent upon how much can you get from the Rift. If you can get a very valuable Rift, if you can knock down a turret or two, then it could be a positive play for them. But as of now, CLG comes out with first power. That is in their advantage. The Infernal is certainly in their advantage. So really, LirA is going to have to get a lot out of that Rift Herald to kind of equalize the extended play.
LirA 0 and 2 so far on this Trundle. Does have 2 assists, so it's not like he's only been finding himself on the receiving end of the CLG punishment, but Remember, he was also the one that was having a bit of a difficult time in yesterday's match against TSM. A few missed smites, getting caught out a couple of times.
Yeah.
So we really want to see LirA, in particular for this Clutch Gaming squad, step up and make sure that he's doing the right thing at the right time.
And part of that really was because of the pick and the pick order that they went. You know, they took a fifth pick, Skarner, and it was against a Morgana and an Anivia and like all these champions that, and you know, it's going to be tough to actually be successful against. But that's one of those situations where, well, that's still an error, whether it was his choice or the coach's choice or whatever. That's still something that they weren't able to get that much out of. And I would say he's having, I think, a more effective game here on the Trundle. And as he's scaling up, you know, he is still the same level here as the Olaf. Trundle is going to be worth a lot in these team fights.
Absolutely.
Being able to shred through, you know, the only true tank of this Olaf. Olaf is going to run in with his ultimate, get ulted and red smited by this Trundle, and kind of get focused down. And that can be very, very difficult then for the Olaf to find much value in team fights.
He's going to lose his resistances from using his own ult. He's going to lose resistances from Trundle's ult. He's going to lose attack damage from Trundle's bite. There's a lot of things to make this Olaf not seem so scary anymore. Shelly summoned up here in the mid lane as Clutch Gaming want to try to set up some sort of a siege onto the tier 1. Shelly will make a nearly full-powered headbutt into that, reduce it down to about 20% HP, but that will not be a turret taken for Clutch. Still tied up 1-1 in those objectives as LirA clears out some vision. Febiven continuing to farm up here. Level 11 on this Swain means he does have level 2 ultimate available. Always important to keep an eye on those power spikes for this champion that Febi is so well known for tearing up the team fights with.
Yeah, definitely the case. And I would have liked to see Clutch try to use the Rift Herald as a minion wave was crashing in, because then there's, I think, more opportunity for follow-up damage on the turret and potentially knocking it down. Still, getting Chunk is useful, but I would say, you know, now having seen what the Rift Herald got done, CLG definitely came out better in the earlier extended play. And Stixxay now on Rageblade, he has his Zerker Greaves, he has a red buff, he is at a very, very strong point, and CLG is looking to kind of flex their muscles here, threatening a dive from the side, and they want to be the ones to knock down this turret.
Stixxay's got that first item power spike. You can see the same thing can be said for Apollo on the Lucian with the Blade of the Ruined King. Sunfire Cape Ninja Tabby completed for Solo's Mundo, but if you're going up against a big tanky armor stacker, just about the best marksman you can be is Kai'Sa, considering she does so much magic-based damage with the popular build these days. Nashor's Tooth into Rabadon's Death Cap being the most popular one, so that Mundo is still going to have to be very mindful of just how much damage he's soaking.
And that's why it's kind of frustrating here when you are playing a tank and you're laning against a very difficult to deal with physical damage lane opponent. So you have to stack armor to not get slaughtered by the Aatrox, but if you only stack armor and you show up to a team fight, well, you're going to get absolutely shredded by this AP Kai'Sa as Stixxay picks up more items, as well as the Aurelion Sol. So you have to kind of go for this middle ground, which does make you more vulnerable to the Aatrox, who can build purely for that 1v1 and that kind of side lane fight.
Predator popped there by ReignOver's Olaf. Wasn't really able to find much of anything with it. Hakuho also throwing out a couple death sentences. None of those really hitting true as both teams just kind of jockey for positioning here in the mid lane. The dance back and forth not resulting in anybody hitting the go button just yet.
Yeah, not just yet, but CLG is trying to spread the map. You can see that they send their solo laners out to the side lanes. They have quite a safe three-man squad. Olaf helping to wave clear with axes. Stixxay, using that Acathian rain to help wave clear as well. And they have Tahm Kench. When you have him in the center of the map, he can also respond very well to his side lane, with the Abyssal Voyage. So CLG wants to control minion waves on the side, have the ability for the Aurelion Sol to fly to the mid lane, help them there, and also have the ability for the Tahm Kench to shuttle himself and one other to a side lane to try to dive or put on additional pressure. And I think that's going to be a lot of what their game plan revolves around.
And earlier I commented on the CLG gold lead being 1,000 gold, 1,500 gold. It's actually closer than it's ever been throughout this game now, down to about 400. It was a greater gold difference than this at level 1. Yeah. Because of the fact that they got first blood plus assist money. So got to give credit to Clutch Gaming for making sure that they staunch that bleeding, address the fact that the early game was going poorly, make sure that they don't lose any more than they had to, and continue working towards that scaling objective that you were talking about earlier, so they can get to this late game with the power of the Swain, with the power of the Trundle, having the unkillable Mundo. Just allowing themselves that time to scale. But 17 minutes into the game, we have an Infernal Drake coming up in 45 seconds. We know Baron will be on the table here in about 2 minutes or so. So there will be neutral objectives to fight over that Clutch will have to decide the value of.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at all the stuff that kind of happened to Solo in this game in the early stages, you would expect him to be so much further behind, right? At level 1, he's forced to flash. Then he's still, I think, actually level 1, gets dove and killed, and fight's gonna break out.
Here we go. Hakuho lands a death sentence. Biofrost in the front line, already having to pop the thick skin. LirA, ultimate keeps him healthy enough to stay alive for now, but not much more. Febiven having to get himself out of the front line as they go right into the fight. Darshan already trying to cut these guys to pieces. Febiven's out of the picture, and Clutch Gaming heads for the hills. CLG take the fight.
Darshan finds a huge dark flight there, jumping in on Aatrox, getting the multi-man knockup, and Clutch is sent scattering. They're gonna get a second Infernal here, and that is really, really big, getting that 16% ADAP advantage over your opponents really does start to get huge in later stages of the game. And that's another Infernal coming up. That is 3 straight. So Clutch is really going to want to have to fight for that one.
If you get the third Infernal, hold on, we'll talk about Infernals after we take another look at this replay, because CLG were really hoping that Clutch walked up a little bit closer.
Yeah, they have vision control. They're able to move in. Clutch responds pretty quickly, but a lot of the damage is used on Biofrost, who has the thick skin, and then this is the turning moment. Darshan comes in, Clutch backs up, and look at them clumping as they're retreating. Knocks up both the carries there. Apollo gets immediately pushed out of the fight. Febiven gets cut down, and Darshan having such an insane impact in that team fight. You have to be so careful about your positioning when you are the damage dealers of this team. I mean, Apollo and Febiven are almost all of your damage, really consistent DPS in these team fights. Yes, Mundo and Trundle will still put out some, but your heavy hitters are those 2 carries, and when they both got hit, both got chunked out by Darshan, he won the team fight.
Pretty sure Apollo was so low that if one of the power waves from the Titanic Hydra would have happened to come in contact with him, he would have died right there. So absolutely no way to stay in that fight once Darshan made such a dramatic entrance. And CLG now finds themselves still sitting exactly where they want to be. They've got the lead heading into the mid-game. 2 Infernals. Baron now live on the table, so if they can find themselves a big fight win, we've seen teams take Baron very early these days. With the state of Baron and how strong it is to take early on, it's not nearly as much as it used to be. You get a big team fight win, you can get a big team fight reward.
There's definitely a possibility, especially if Darshan is working towards his Rage Blade, as I expect he is. That's double Rage Blade champions who can absolutely shred through the Baron very, very quickly. And you know, Stixxay has been quietly farming away, just has the 1 assist to his name, but you know, he is a guy who can do a lot of the heavy lifting in the late game on this Kai'Sa, so if they can get him to 2-3 items, he certainly can pick up a lot of the slack as the Aurelion Sol and the Olaf kind of start to fall off.
And we've seen, whether it's in the Super Kai'Sa strategy or in just having Kai'Sa in general, we've seen this champion carry games a lot already in summer 2018, but right now we're seeing her get shot to pieces. A little bit more damage coming out, tries to flash away, but not quite today. Apollo takes him out.
And that is just messy stuff from CLG. The team splits up. Tahm Kench is not with Stixxay. Stixxay tanks so much of the culling before actually flashing away. Does not even use Killer Instinct. I mean, if you're getting shot like that, you can just Killer Instinct to the same side that you're already in for the shield and try to run away without flashing, or you need to early flash. Instead, he holds onto the ultimate, tries to hold onto the flash, ends up expending it and dying anyway. So here it is. This looks good from CLG. They're moving in together, but then the rest of the team is going one way, he's going the other. And at this point, you need to either immediately flash out or use the Killer Instinct or something. And he didn't actually have the Plasma on him, so he wouldn't have been able to do it. So it would have had to be that early flash.
He Plasma tried to hit his opponent, but instead only got the caster minion. So no opportunity to use the ultimate there. Ends up costing Stixxay his life. And with that extra bit of stalling added into the game, Clutch Gaming are happy to say, all right, that's fine. Another couple of minutes that CLG are not getting ahead. Another couple minutes for us to scale. And Apollo, we saw at the beginning of the day on the countdown, this is the guy who's had 5 more kills than anybody else, any other individual player in the North American LCS coming into day 2 of week 2. And when you're able to make the plays like that, recognize, hey, I can kill this guy right now. That's what gets you there.
Certainly the case. I mean, he had 10 kills yesterday. He was an absolute monster for Clutch. Him and Febiven really getting a lot of the heavy lifting done. He knocks down the turret. He gets a second kill. He's sitting on 2 items. Lucian definitely at a very strong point right now in the game. And you know, Darshan is kind of trying to farm up and wait for that Rage Blade or potentially a Blade of the Rune King to come in for him. But until then, you know, the Mundo is at a stronger point, and it's Clutch that is posturing around here by the Baron. There's also the potential, you know, CLG is going to really want this third Infernal. There's potential of a trade if they go for that.
Nice force out of the Ragnarok there. The pillar makes sure that he has to use it just to get away. ReignOver in no condition to fight any longer, just wants to get himself away from this one and get healed up. Very nice move there from Clutch Gaming, always looking to punish whenever they can.
Yeah, and the Zeke's now completed for the trundle, so he's going to have that online. You just drop the pillar, drop the ult, he gets shredded so quick.
Oh, another nice death sentence. Flash ain't gonna do it today. Febiven grabs the kill.
Yeah, they could go straight to Baron now. That's Huhi down there, immediately TPing solo over here. They will go for the Baron, and they are trying to get so much off of that pick. Remember, ReignOver has no ultimate, so it's so hard for him to be useful in this fight, and is CLG just gonna give it up? It's TP coming in, but we'll see if it's too little too late.
No breaks on the hype train today. Clutch Gaming want to go all the way off that pick onto the mid laner. Baron down to 1/3. Darshan, the hero of the last team fight in the enemy jungle, now looking to go in, potentially be that hero here again. Baron at 3K, still looking to make the fight, still able to go in, finding the knockup, 1-2. Darshan going to be taken low. ReignOver's in the pit now as well. Baron still only at about 2K. Darshan's going to go down, and Solo's on a killing spree. They have to take ReignOver out if they want to make this a 100% secure. But ReignOver gets the Baron, and that could potentially save this situation for CLG as Biofrost goes over the wall. And all right, he goes over the wall, but Stixxay grabs the kill on the LirA, and Biofrost comes right back in. He goes down. Apollo's on a killing spree, as Solo's now going to be thrown to the wolves, so Apollo can try to escape. He'll look to TP out, and he does.
Oh, that was so close. One auto, and he would have gone down as well, but CLG getting so much out of that. Biofrost is getting pretty hypey, flashing over. He's like, whoa, wait.
It's like, hold on a second.
Is this a prank, bro? All right, here it is one more time. It is the 4v5, and a lot of split focus in this fight. You know, Clutch isn't sure, do we finish the Baron off? What do we do here? Where do we go? Stixxay gets largely ignored, and Darshan is able to buy so much time getting into the middle of the fight here. Has the ultimate ready, goes straight in, flash in, knock up, getting so much damage down. ReignOver comes over, and Stixxay is being ignored through almost all of that. He's able to use the Killer Instinct, kiting back, doing a very good job, and now they've bought enough time that they're able to re-enter the pit. The smite came down early, it looked like there from the trundle, and ReignOver is able to secure it. Stixxay is still full health. Biofrost goes over the wall, but is able to kind of group back up with Huhi and use the Abyssal Voyage to catch back up, cleaning up a couple more kills, and CLG end up coming out so far ahead off of this.
In Clutch Gaming's game yesterday against TSM, it was LirA's mistimed smites.
God, that damage.
That made it look like TSM were going to have an avenue back into the game. And now against CLG, again, that weakness is shown. LirA's inability to secure these big neutral objectives is proving to be quite a problem for Clutch Gaming.
And it could be a mental block. It's one of those things that every jungler knows this. The more smites you miss, the more nervous you get about the next smite, right? You lost the Scuttle Crab fight,
confidence.
You lost that fight around the red buff. Well, now you're worried, are you going to lose the Baron? Like that's a big deal. And yesterday it was a problem for LirA. They came out on top, but this one is looking pretty rough with a triple Infernal advantage, plus the Baron buff. Kai'Sa getting to a very, very strong point. This could be a tough one for Clutch to really stabilize in and come back in, because even if the gold is close, the Infernals give such a tremendous advantage. It's thousands and thousands of gold worth of extra stats going their way.
And let's not forget, this is Kai'Sa. She uses AD and AP, so you're essentially getting double the Infernals. It's like 6 of them.
That's a lot of Infernals.
That's quite a few Infernals, more than you'd normally ever see in a game of League of Legends, as CLG will take down this bottom lane tier 2 turret, brings their turret count up to 4, their gold lead up to about 5K, and they've still got 30 seconds or so of Baron remaining. Clutch Gaming need to find some kind of a pick here. Death Sentence flies out, doesn't really find anyone. Never Move lands its way onto Biofrost, but Tahm Kench isn't the guy you're looking for.
Yeah, you can see again, this is the strategy. Solo laners go out to the side lanes. Hui's going to get top lane pushing. Darshan shoving out bottom lane on the Aatrox, and you're going to have this safe 3-man squad pressuring up mid. They want the waves to have to be responded to here from Clutch. And for now, CLG will push out those waves, will reset as the Baron is expiring. Didn't get too much from that, as you know, a lot of players were dead kind of as the Baron was going down and so on and so forth, but still increasing the gold lead, scaling up, working towards these next items. And the death cap completion for Stixxay is so big, amplifying all of that AP, you know, in combination with the Rage Blade, the Nashers. This is really where your passive and it starts to do such hilarious amounts of damage. Like the execute is really shocking on that 5th stack of plasma at this point.
Also looking at, you've got the 2 big items for the Aatrox. We've seen Darshan just have no fear on this champion so far, diving in when he needs to dive in. Black Cleaver done on ReignOver's Olaf means just more general fighting stats, as well as that Aurelion Sol for Huhi, Morellonomicon, Rod of Ages, Rylai's Crystal Scepter, plenty of power behind him as well.
Yeah, and I've really got to point out that I'm very pleased that CLG is not neglecting, the kind of due diligence with the healing debuffs. We saw an early Executioners here from Darshan, now the Morellos from Huhi. There's such a tremendous amount of healing coming out from this team. All the lifesteal from Apollo. Mundo has an incredible amount of regen and healing. So the Trundle ultimate, as well as Swain, right? A healing debuff is a must versus this team. They're making sure they'll always have it, which is just so smart, and these items are so incredibly efficient.
Culling comes out there. Biofrost takes the brunt of the damage. He'll heal a little bit of it up with the thick skin, getting himself back up to just shy of half HP. Clutch Gaming now firmly on their back foot. You could tell that earlier this game was a bit of back and forth with who's trying to make the play and who's responding, but ever since the Baron fiasco, it's been CLG that have been calling the shots, and Clutch that are just trying to keep their heads above water, especially with this massive Kai'Sa that you were talking about. You don't play the fight right one more time against a Kai'Sa that's got this much farm, that has this much power in the itemization, you're probably just done.
Yeah, it becomes very tough because essentially Clutch is playing a lot of these champions that are kind of like drain tanky type regen champions, right? And there's a certain threshold where if you cannot deal enough DPS, Mundo becomes invincible and he runs through your team. Same can be said with Trundle, same can be said with Swain. But when you have triple Infernal, when you have a gold advantage, when you have multiple forms of healing debuffs in items as well as double ignite, you'll always have that, and that damage threshold is so easy to hit.
Darshan now going for that 1 versus 1 against Solo. Isn't even going to need the 1 versus 1 for long. He's got buddies coming in to help him just to make sure the redemption will not do enough to keep Solo alive. And with that kill, that means 40 seconds until the Clutch Gaming squad is 5 men strong again. 1 minute until Baron spawns for CLG to set things up.
Yeah, it looks like CLG just wants full Baron vision control. You can see all the wards that they have gotten down around the blue side of Clutch. There's a tremendous amount of vision in this area. They really want to kind of secure this and make it very difficult for Clutch to even come near to try to check it out. And as long as you're the ones getting the engage, as long as you are the ones choosing the fight from this position as CLG, you are certainly going to come out on top.
All right, let's press rewind for a second, Azael, and go back to when you said earlier you wanted to see more later game consistency from CLG. So far, it's been working out pretty well for them. Darshan with the flash away to get himself out. Blasttone's also right there to make sure that that escape gets all the way out of town. And this CLG squad seems to be playing the game pretty close to the vest right now, not over-risking anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are playing pretty well, but you have to remember that Baron was pretty coin flippy, right? It's one of those situations where Clutch was in a 5v4. CLG not only gets the kills, but they get that Baron steal. Had they not gotten that, the game would look very, very different. And CLG still needs to play it safe, needs to play it consistent. They have side lane control with these champions, and I want to see them maintain vision control, get the side lanes working in their favor, and then go for this Baron and look to close out the game. You have to kind of check all the boxes before you do this, and Clutch has really fought back and got a lot of vision in the area. So we're going to see Darshan going down to bot. They're trying to draw Solo down to the bottom and either get a 1v1 kill or draw multiple members down so that CLG can get control of the mid lane area, get vision, and work towards getting that Baron.
Worth pointing out that Apollo also has the Essence Reaver completed now on Lucian, which is the item that can turn him into an absolute monster if he can get off all those back-to-back Spellslinger casts. We'll have to see how that works out in the next team fight. As bottom side, it's the inhibitor turret down now on the side of Clutch Gaming. Darshan making sure of that one, constantly providing this split push threat, trying to buy time for the rest of the squad to maybe set up enough around Baron.
They've got to back off here because it's both soul laners bot side. Biofrost's going to get caught.
Tries to flash out. It's going to be the flash death sentence follow-up to make sure Clutch Gaming's able to find the pick.
CLG's trying to end the game.
Side, CLG wants to end this right here, right now. They've already got Darshan down there. They're using 2 other TPs to make sure they get to the Nexus turrets in time. They've already found 1. Darshan, Huhi, and Stixxay continuing to push. They're up against Apollo and Solo here. Stixxay on the front line, going to be taking a little bit of damage. Darshan still trying to go in. Going to probably be taken down, and Apollo goes unstoppable before the Bloodwell's able to be procced as LirA grabs a kill onto ReignOver in the meantime. Huhi trying to get himself out of this base. You better move your dragon butt, boy. Stuck up against the wall.
Hakuho's here now, though.
Flash over it, but Hakuho is right there with the death sentence. Come on over, buddy, and collect your gold. JK, I'm going to take it myself. Hakuho grabs that kill, and it looks like Stixxay will be the one man hobbling away from this one. He wants to camp into the brush. Say, hey, Hakuho, what's going on, buddy?
God.
Void Seeker.
There was a Thresh there, I swear, and
Not no more.
Hakuho just gets taken off the map, but still it's CLG, you know, trying to go for these really clever places. Do they need to try to go for a base race when you have Triple Infernal, when you had full map control? They go for the big play. Clutch responds appropriately. It will be a Clutch Gaming Baron, and Clutch is going to buy themselves more time.
Okay, if that's still Baron, they're going to have a problem.
If LirA loses the Baron
To the lick.
Kench Tahm Lash, that's where you just hit the FF, and that's where you walk off stage.
GG go next.
Yeah, exactly. GG go next. Actually, BG go next. But anyway, here it is one more time. CLG decides to make the call, fully commit to this. Maybe not taking into consideration the fact that Apollo still had his TP, but Apollo was very quick on the draw, got back to base. Solo does a good job tanking this up, and nice flash there from Apollo. Avoiding that Dark Flight, not allowing Darshan to get his passive stacked up for the Bloodwell respawn, which makes them lose that fight. These Huhi gets picked off on the way out, and means Clutch has the Baron and another lease on life in this game. But CLG doesn't need to go for all these crazy risky plays. They still have Triple Infernal. They still have 4 dragons to none. They're still up 5,000 gold. You can play a more standard style and try to control the map in the side lanes, but we'll see if they're going to go for this, because this really has been where they've kind of struggled to cleanly close out a lot of the games.
Well, with Baron under the belts of Clutch Gaming for another 2.5 minutes, that's 2.5 minutes of CLG not really wanting to go too aggro in the face of this buffed up opposition. So just a little bit of extra breathing room for Clutch. Remember, they did lose their bottom lane inhib. They did lose 1 Nexus turret. So any more big losses could just mean the game for this team. They have to be extra careful. You can see Solo working on that Thorn Mail next in the inventory, or at least making sure he has the Bramble Vest just to deal with Solo better in the 1 versus 1. He can't just keep bleeding out that split push game as Clutch Gaming pushes up the mid lane onto the tier 2. CLG will not defend.
Yeah, you got to be careful now, though, because it is a Baron buff. And yeah, CLG, if they can get down to the other side of the map, they can win the game. But Clutch is just going to walk 5 as this kind of meatball comp with all of the Baron buff support there. You can push very heavily into the base. And likewise, if CLG loses a fight here with the Baron buff there, that's the end of the game for them.
We're on a knife's edge, Azael. Either side could still walk away from this when it comes down to execution. It comes down to who plays it right. Void Seeker finds its way onto Solo, but considering he's got the Negatron Cloak as well as the full Spirit Visage, doesn't really hurt him that much. Warmog's also up on this guy, so I like that pick. I like the fact that you've got somebody who can just absorb all the Void Seekers, considering they're going to fly out every 4 seconds if he's hitting them.
Yep. And it's also pretty good in the 1v1 if you're in a side lane against the Aatrox, because basically the idea is Aatrox gets his passive stacked, he jumps on you, you fight, you back off, and as his passive falls, it's harder for him to kind of continue that fight. Your Warmog's going to heal you back up, and maybe you can look to re-engage or at least kind of stay stable in that 1v1.
If nothing else, you deadlock, right? He'll heal back up off of the next minion wave, you heal up by standing there, and everybody just stays locked in this eternal limbo of split push 1v1. Febiven clears out the wave, and somehow that turret with 1 HP, literally,
it's more
1
than
health, it's enough to keep it standing. It's shaking, the bricks are falling off. I don't even know how it's still there, but it is. Apollo gets hit by the Void Seeker, takes a decent chunk of damage, and gets himself out. ReignOver will collect the Scuttle Crab around Baron, provide a little bit of extra control over that river. As Darshan continues to push up, he's like, all right, minions, you can do it.
Rest in peace.
Brave soul. It stood for so long.
Turret did its best. That's all you can ask for.
Yep. Definitely a team player there. Fought to the very bitter end, and now with that gone, the only turrets left standing in the Clutch Gaming base are those, well, in the base. They've got 2 left for the inhibitors. They've got 1 left for the Nexus.
That's 2 Void Seekers, and LirA is at half HP going back to base.
And that's your trundle. That's not your 8
Wait,
carrier.
he hit him again.
Okay, well, 3 of them. Takes him down to 1/4.
Yeah.
I'll leave you guys to do the math and figure out what happens if a 4th one hits him before he heals up.
That feels so bad, too, because it's so far away. Like, you can't even see this guy on your screen, and he's chunking you for so much health. And this is not always a stage of the game that you really get to see Kai'Sa in, but you're seeing Stixxay. You know, he has 30% CDR in his build, and if you can grab him a blue buff, he's sitting out 40%. You can spam out these Void Seekers nonstop, and you have enough AP in this build that every time you hit it, you have that evolved W, so it gives you half the cooldown back, which basically puts your Void Seeker, you know, at like 4.5 or so second cooldown. So it's spammable, it's incredibly high damage, and you kind of become like a super Ezreal almost in the later stages of the game, as long as you're being accurate.
The thing is, too, this Kai'Sa now with Zhonya's Hourglass completed means trying to dive onto her, trying to secure a pick onto her. You either have to have a perfect CC chain with Thresh, or you're just not going to get it because of the fact that he can drop aggro by 2.5 seconds with the stasis and create that much more of a difficult situation for Clutch to try to win out in. Still a 4,000 gold difference between the teams, though. Elder Drake live in 90 seconds. Remember, if CLG gets that, they have all 4 Elemental Drakes so far, 3 of those being Infernal. This team's power goes through the roof with that objective secured.
Yeah, it really does. And another thing that I always kind of find funny about Kai'Sa is all the AP and AD scaling that is actually on the ultimate means that her ultimate at this point in the game is a shield for 1,000. So unless you actually are killing this guy off right off the bat, Stixxay is going to pop the ultimate. He's going to have the killer instinct. That is going to be a massive shield. He has Knight's Vow. He has this Tahm Kench to protect him as well. You know, it can be very, very tough to actually take him down. Even if you get that CC and he's only low, killer instinct can come out and give him enough time to really heal back up quite a lot.
Void Seeker almost insta to give that poor little minion. He never got to see the glorious fields of battle until now. And then the cannon minion just one-shots him as soon as he gets there. That's a hard life to live. Still a 13-11 game. The kills very close between these two teams, just blow for blow throughout the entirety of this game. 39 minutes in, almost up to that 40-minute point. Both big buffs gonna be live in under 60 seconds. Clutch Gaming cannot afford to give away that Elder. And honestly, if they try to go for the Baron, CLG can let them take it and take Elder instead and then just force a fight after. That's always a possibility when you have this many Drakes as an advantage. We'll just have to see how the teams decide to play that one out. There's a lot of different ways you could approach this.
Oh, Aatrox is flanking.
Clutch Gaming could be in a really bad spot here. Darshan on the front line, going to be taken very low. Does go into Resurrection just in time. Febiven gets himself away. Solo coming in from behind. Death Sentence goes out, able to pull some in, but Febiven the first one down. Clutch Gaming having to run away now. The redemption comes through. Not going to find a lot just yet. Solo on the front line. CLG does win the fight. And with that win, Elder Drake is alive.
Oh, the Void Seeker? Nope. Yeah, and that is the power of Aatrox in this late game stage. He has GA. He had his passive. He's on his 3rd life. They killed him twice in the fight, and no one died on the side of CLG. So it does end up being just the 1-for-0, but the Elder is so incredibly important. And when you get that first, it means almost an uncontestable Baron. It's so hard now to actually get over there and fight for this. I mean, the Kai'Sa has 1,040 AP. That's actually insane. That's so much damage going to be coming out of this guy.
Seems good. Seems good. CLG now with a triple Infernal Elder Drake buff plus Baron plus a nearly 10,000 gold lead has got to be in the best possible position to end this game. Let's see how they got there with this fight.
Here this is again. Darshan knows he's sitting on 3 lives, knows he can go aggressive, is going to look for it, pops the ulti, jumping in on Febiven. Now, Clutch plays this fight pretty well. You know, had that GA not been there, he would have actually died before he got his passive stacked. But Huhi on the side, Voice of Light, the orbs connecting on so many members. Huhi almost 100 as Zero's Apollo with this great positioning, really showing his mastery, making it work on the Aurelion Sol in the late game. He's such an incredible player on the champion, and with the Baron buff added in, it's even more AP into the equation. These guys are getting ridiculously strong. Clutch's only hope really now is delay, delay, delay. You need these buffs to expire because there is no world in which you win an even fight unless CLG is hands off keyboard.
This is the end of Lord of the Rings 2. It's time for Clutch Gaming to dig deep and defend and pull off some kind of a miracle. They are outnumbered and outgunned in terms of resources. Let's see how well they can do up against a Void Seeker that can hit Hakuho for half his HP. That one would have killed him.
Stixxay basically has all the Infinity Stones at this point.
Snap.
Snap of fingers. Has the Void Staff here too. He is looking monstrous. All the builds are being complete.
Let's not forget the true damage burn. That'll take Febiven down to about half HP. Well, now down to nothing. Has to pop the Hourglass just to try to stay alive. Won't be able to do so. ReignOver makes sure he gets the kill on that one. Darshan, meanwhile, pushing Solo out here in the bottom lane. Darshan continuing that push right now, not afraid of anything. 2 dead, 3 dead on the side of Clutch. And that is all there is to it, Azael. That buff was just too much. The Nexus goes down, and CLG will find their win.
CLG rewarded for all their work throughout the games, collecting the Infernals, 4 dragons, controlling the map, finally being able to cash in on all that work. But it did take them 42 minutes in a game that they had first blood at level 1, in a game that they were very far ahead in the early stages, and there were still some of those, shakiness, kind of signs of weakness in the mid game and in the late game, and things that they can still kind of walk away and try to work on.
They have things to still work on, but they have to feel good about finding the win here. Remember that Clutch Gaming is not a team to be taken lightly. This is a team that already took down TSM yesterday. This is a team that has shown that they are also a force to be reckoned with. So being able to take down a team of that caliber has to feel good for these guys. Put them in a good spot now. They now have an even record with Clutch. Both teams sitting on 2-2 around the middle of the pack. And for Clutch, you've got to start evaluating these mid-game plays around big neutral objectives. It's already like you said, if that Baron play doesn't go the way it does, if that doesn't get stolen, we could have been looking at a vastly different game.
Yeah, you really could have. But you have to give so much credit, I really feel, to Huhi. He was so insanely good on the Aurelion Sol this game for CLG from start to finish. This guy really was a monster, and I'm constantly impressed, with his Aurelion Sol play. We may be seeing it back on the ban table once again. Every once in a while, it sneaks through. He plays it. Everyone's like, "Oh, yeah, you can't let him play that."
Sometimes you forget, and you just need a little bit of a reminder. And this game, I think, will serve as a staunch reminder to anybody going up against CLG that Aurelion Sol is always a possibility, especially when compared to somebody like ReignOver, who's good on a champion like Olaf. You let those two work together and synergize, they tore up the early game.
Yeah, I mean, they were everywhere. Huhi was roaming all across the map, controlling his lane, involved in all of the early kills, the dive on a solo, the first blood, the multiple blue buff takes, even in those late game team fights where oftentimes people really struggle on Aurelion Sol, they have a lot of difficulty finding successful fights. Huhi was still a monster. I mean, that one fight which kind of led to the Elder Dragon and to all these additional objectives was really won by Huhi on this Aurelion Sol, kind of coming over the wall at the Raptor Pit, finding so much damage onto Apollo and completely pushing him out of the fight.
And Huhi's not just the guy who says, okay, I'm going to be the carry, I'm going to be the superhero here. He enables the team so well as well. It's that extra attention that he and ReignOver were paying to topside that got Darshan where he needed to be for the entirety of that game as well. But to hear more about the win, let's go ahead and send things down to Aurelion and CLG's Void Seeker in the bot lane.
Thanks, guys. Stixxay, congratulations on that victory and popping off on Kai'Sa. What is your relationship with that champion? Because, oh my gosh, you were almost one-shotting people at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think Kai'Sa is kind of a pick, North America at least, where it kind of came up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden people are, starting to pick Kai'Sa like super early in the draft. So I think she's just really strong, and that game we had, 3 Infernals, Elder, Baron, and stuff, so I was just really strong.
And we've mainly seen you on traditional marksmen like Ezreal and Varus, and now Kai'Sa. What do you think about the meta so far?
I think the meta is really fun. I kind of agree with a lot of the other pros that the gold funneling strat is definitely the most unfun thing, but in terms of mages and bruiser bot, I think it's actually really fun. And I would like to also say that we do play those champs. We just haven't had a chance to play it on stage yet. So.
And kind of speaking to that, as of last split, people were kind of curious in what CLG's play style or how you guys were finding your identity. So what would you say is CLG's identity, and how are you finding it?
I think CLG's identity is definitely just strong mid-jungle and playing kind of calculated and I guess helping our teammates. So it's kind of just if we have pressure in one lane, shift it to another lane instead of trying to only snowball through that one lane. So I think it's just a lot of teamwork.
And how about your own personal play style?
Lane Kingdom.
Lane Kingdom?
Yep.
Well, congratulations again on your win. And for more in the game, let's hear from the desk.
Thank you very much, Aurelion. A big victory for CLG in a very messy game against Clutch here. Both teams moving to 2-2 at the end of week 2. I mean, what are our thoughts here? Because it was so back and forth, and it did at so many times come down to mistakes from either side.
It felt like either team should have won this game at different points, depending on when you snapshotted it.
Right.
This was oh my God, level 1 first blood. Didn't really get it back off, but then Clutch Gaming wins a nice fight in the river that ends up being a 3-for-2 in their favor, and it feels like they're starting to claw their way back in the game. And they find some pickoffs, and it starts to feel like it's coming back in the favor of Clutch Gaming.
Yeah, Solo made a nice outplay here, but this Baron was a little bit of a mess.
Febby.
Yeah, one thing to point out is Febiven actually had a really bad game. That was just one of the fights where he didn't get his zonies or stopwatch off and didn't detonate his ultimate. Even though he managed to do a lot of damage, it's just he was in a situation where I think he could have done a lot more. And then it's just the icing on the cake. 2 Ws in a row, land from Stixxay, kill him as he's trying to take the Lantern. And even if those Ws don't hit, it was a basically 4.5x Infernal Elder Drake team with Baron that was pushing down, and the damage had been done.
Yeah, it was a game, I think, it's hard to say who would have been better in the late game without those Infernal Dragons, but for CLG with Kai'Sa and triple Infernal, it's definitely them. And then that one Baron situation, there are a lot of different ways that could have gone. Could they have burned it down right away? Could they have turned off and just tried to kill Stixxay because it felt like they had plenty of damage? Those kinds of decisions that they could have made, they ended up doing none of them, and LirA loses yet another Smite battle.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the gold was in favor of CLG for the entirety of the game, and as you mentioned, they did pick up those 3 Infernals, and so, you know, to put it nicely, they at least were rewarded for the work that they had done around the neutral objectives for the large part of the game, ultimately with the victory, but for both teams, I can't imagine they're walking away from it. Even CLG in the win saying, whew, times are good here for us moving out of week 2 and towards week 3.
Here's the thing. They are not happy probably about the way they played and how they had triple Infernal and had a hard time closing it out. But they're 1 game out of first, Dash.
That's very true.
There's so many teams at 2-2. There's so many teams at 3-1. There's no one that's going to be at 0-4. So everyone...
you know who is going to be at 0-4?
I am right now.
Yeah, you
actually.
guys.
I have one.
Sorry, you have one.
the coin.
But Jad is right now.
I'm FlagQuest, baby.
Everyone can just take a big, deep breath and I think reset before week 3 because everyone's just learned and no one has gotten all the wins. No one's taken all the losses. It's wide open.
Well, you know what? Take a deep breath because we got a very exciting game 5 to finish us out here. We got one more to wrap up week 2. It's Echo Fox and Golden Guardians who are going to slug it out after the break. Don't touch that browser.
Echo Fox.
Walk into the brush, could be in some trouble here. The stars come out, the damage comes down, and LirA goes home in a body bag. Febiven out of the demon form, trying to get himself away. ReignOver gonna go down next as Febby uses the power of the stopwatch to stay alive for only a moment longer.
Good job. I think that's worth. Maybe I can kill this guy. Should I try? Yes. You can do it, bro. Yes, good job. Don't push.
Baron's still only at about 2K. Darshan's gonna go down, and Solo's on a killing spree. They have to take ReignOver out if they want to make this a 100% again. But ReignOver gets the Baron and try to stay alive. Won't be able to do so. ReignOver makes sure he gets the kill on that one. Darshan, meanwhile, pushing Solo out here in the bottom lane. Darshan continuing that push right now, not afraid of anything. 2 dead, 3 dead on the side of Clutch.